All right, so today what we're going to be doing is installing some brake pads on the Durango SRT. As anybody with an SRT vehicle or Brembo brakes from the factory knows that the factory brakes, although they work amazing, the level of dust that, you drive it, you clean your brake, you clean your tires, your wheels, everything, and you go drive it around the block and they're coated with dust. Which, the brakes work fine, but the brake dust is just, it's terrible. It's unbearable, especially for somebody that likes to keep their car clean. So the Hellcat's got the Powerstop Z26 pads on, and man, they're phenomenal. They brakes just as well. I don't know if better, but I didn't notice any difference. However, the brake dust is virtually non-existent. Especially that the wheels are ceramic coated. Even with ceramic coating, the brake dust on the Brembo pads is just so bad that it still takes more than just hosing them off. However, on the Hellcat, you just hose it off with a power washer, and you pretty much don't even have to clean the wheels. The ceramic coating on that, with that very little dust that the Z26 pads produces, the brake dust just comes, what little there is just comes right off. So I'm excited to put some Z23 Powerstop pads on the Durango SRT. As of right now, they don't offer a part number for the Durango SRT, so what I did was I bought the Jeep SRT. I looked up the specs for the 2017 Jeep SRT, and looking at the specs, the brakes are identical to the Durango SRT. So just looked up the part number on Powerstop's website, ordered them off as Amazon. They're pretty inexpensive for what they are. They are carbon fiber and ceramic performance pads. So here is front pads, then the back pads. Part number off of these is Z23-1405 for the front and Z23-1053 for the back. Nice thing about these is it comes with everything. It comes with new hardware, new slide pins for the calipers, and of course the pads. And then Powerstop also supplies this lubricant for brake noise. It's a ceramic silicone brake component lubricant. So I like to put this on all the slide pins and anywhere that the pad comes in contact with the caliper. You can see the difference in size for the back pads versus the front. It's got the Brembo all the way around, but they're much smaller in the back. Look at the size difference between that front pad versus the back pad. You basically, two rear pads equals the size of one front one. So I went ahead and got I'm at the house shop today, so these pads didn't come until late yesterday in the afternoon. I was already home finishing up the trailer hitch install. So and unfortunately my Civic SI is currently being worked on, and my Hellcat's underneath it. So it was just much easier just to throw the Durango up on some jack stands and get it all torn apart. So I just finished cleaning the car. I don't know if you noticed in the last video how nasty it was. It's been raining here for like 2 weeks straight, and just everything is just coated, and it's just very frustrating trying to keep up with cleaning everything. But got the wheels all cleaned up, got the barrels all cleaned up with it being off of the car, got the calipers all wiped down. On this side too, and you can see how nice and clean. It's super easy to clean the wheels when they're off the car, but the barrels, I don't know if you can see it that well, but barrels are super slick and shiny. That ceramic coating really makes it easy to clean. Really just got to wipe them down. But I'm super excited to have these new pads on here, because it's gonna be so nice. It's gonna cut the cleaning time of the Durango probably more than half, because I usually spend about an hour on the wheels alone before I even start washing the car. So it's gonna be exciting to cut that time down significantly. So anyway, I'll once I get them installed, and after about a week or so, I might throw something up, a review on how they stop, and then I'll do some real world, like walk up to the car after a good stop and swipe my hand on the rim to show you how little brake dust these things actually put out. So anyway, I'm gonna get started on this, and we'll be back in just a minute. Cool. So these brake pads are extremely easy. Basically, you have a 13 millimeter on here on the back side with this little slide pin. It retains the slide pin. So you take the 13 millimeter off. Then from there is a couple of guide pins that take a punch, something that's obviously smaller than the hole, but not too small because you don't want to slip and nick the caliper. And I just like to take it nice and easy and punch those through. And once you punch those through, then this little spring mechanism here for the pads comes out. Then the pads will slide out. What I like to do if I'm not reusing the pads is I'll take a pry bar and I will kind of gently put it next to the rotor and the pad and just gently apply pressure to push the piston in. I'm not so much worried about the brake pad getting nicked since I'm not going to reuse them, but just don't want to mess up the rotor at all, which I know it's not going to, but still I like to be cautious. So get these pins taken out, get this clip off, then I'll compress the pistons and slide the pads out, then I'll show you the next step. Alright, so the new pins, the new retainer spring, and of course you reuse this guide pin here, and the 13 millimeter is tightened. I was able to compress the piston without damaging the rotor. Just take it nice and easy, and that's pretty much all it is to it. I mean, brakes are pretty simple. So let's go do the other side, then we'll do the back. Alright, so got the other side put back together, and got the tire back on. Haven't torqued the wheels yet, but moving on to the back side, you can see that the back rotor is a little bit different. Caliper is completely different. The way that the caliper actually holds the brake pads in is slightly different. It still has the pins, but that one guide pin there in the center and that 13 millimeter bolt's not there. So this side's actually a little bit quicker on the install, but fairly simple. So I'm gonna get these pads thrown in, get the wheels thrown on. Then there's a small break-in procedure. The break-in procedure on this one, it says it on the box. Some people, it's kind of always has some controversy as to what they say, when it comes to break-in periods. The first break-in period, the first one, it wants you to do 5 aggressive decelerations from 40 to 10 without stopping, then 5 moderate decelerations from 35 to 5, then a small cool down period of 5 minutes. And it wants you to try to do this without completely stopping. So you got to find a spot where you can do it with out hitting a red light or a stop sign, because once the rotors are very hot from this the first and second stage, if you were to stop at a light and clamp down on the the front wheels, it's clamping on a rotor in a certain spot where the outer portion is cooling and the spot that it's clamping on has more heat, so it actually can start to warp the rotor prematurely. Try not to completely come to a hard stop until you are completed, or that the brakes have cooled down pretty substantially. If you have to stop, what I recommend doing is when you come to a stop, go ahead and put it in park and take your foot off the brake until you have to push the brake to put it back into drive. So if you follow those steps, will help keep the rotor from warping, make sure the brake pads have a nice long life ahead of them, being broken in properly. Alright, so I wanted to show real quick the pads. They don't have a part number for the Durango SRT, so I bought the Jeep SRT, and there are some differences on the pads. It's mainly hardware. You'll notice here the little brake spring here that holds the pads in place. It's substantially bigger
and that and the pins. You can see the guide pin right here. The guide pin for this model here, you can see the difference. It's you can see it real well. It's a little bit shorter of the ones that were provided for the pad. That and on the Brembo pad, the back side pad does not have a squealer. The front side has a little squealer right here, but the back side doesn't. And so what's happening in here is the Powerstops have squealers on both pads, on all the pads. So the inner pad, when you go to put it in, this squealer is actually contacting something in the caliper or the rotor. So I'm actually going to have to take a pair of snips and take that off, and they should be able to fit in just fine. That's it. So I'm going to continue this video in a few days. I'm going to monitor the brake dust on the wheels and report that back to you. All right, so see you in a little while. All right, so it's been a week now with these new brake pads on. Now, may not be able to be very visible in the video. There is brake dust on here. I'm just going to be truthful. Okay. Look at that right there. There is brake dust on there. But this right here, after 1 week of driving, that's not even as bad as it would have been with the factory Brembos, with the factory Brembo pads. That's like 5 minutes of driving. And after 1 week, that's all that there is. So I'm going to call that a success. Now the back is a whole other story. It barely looks like any brake dust. It's more water spot than brake dust. It's more like just dust than brake dust. The inside of the barrels are clean. So I highly recommend Powerstop pads. I went with a Z23. It's not as aggressive as the Z26 like I have on the Hellcat. I noticed on the Hellcat rotors on the front, it actually kind of grooves them a little bit because they're a little bit more aggressive. You know, and of course, you know, going 160 plus miles an hour and hitting the brakes repetitively, you know, that's not exactly easy on them. So all things considered, the Z26 are pretty awesome, but these Z23 are a perfect street pad, so I highly recommend them. So anyway, thanks for checking out the video. Make sure to hit like or don't like, subscribe to the channel, and try to get you some more cool stuff. All right, later.